Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on engineering thermodynamics. We are continuing our topic of combustion, and this will be our last lecture of this chapter as well as last lecture of this online lecture series of thermodynamics. So first of all, we will do a quick revision of our previous topics. Combustion of fuels can be defined as a chemical reaction between fuel and oxygen. The fuel can be solid, liquid or gases, and here fuel plus oxygen is required, and oxygen is taken from the air. Now we will discuss about the combustion equations. Here we have taken few examples, very easy examples of chemical reaction. Here, so C plus O2 is CO2. Similarly, 2H2 plus O2 is equal to 2H2O. Similarly, the stoichiometric combustion equation of methane with oxygen is written in this form. And these are the equations for C6H14, that is also known as hexane. And the next is minimum air requirement. The minimum mass or volume of air required for complete combustion of 1 kg or 1 meter cube of fuel is called the minimum air requirement. It is sometimes referred to as theoretical or correct or stoichiometric air requirement. So first we started with combustion of hydrogen. Here a first analysis is done with mass, that is 2H2 plus O2 is equal to 2H2O. So here 2H2 has 4 mass, here oxygen has 32 and here 36. So we have divided everything with 4. So 1 mass of H2 plus 8 masses of O2 plus is equal to 9 masses of H2O. So in terms of suppose mass is in kilograms, so we can write down in this way. And I explained you about how we can obtain the mass of air required for complete burning of 1 kg of H2, that is dividing the mass of oxygen with 0.232, that will give us the mass of air required. And out of this total mass of air, when we subtract the mass of oxygen, we can get the mass of nitrogen. Then here finally we are getting this answer where nitrogen is not taking part in the combustion process. Then we did the analysis by volume. Here we use the Avogadro's hypothesis, that is the equal volume of different gases at same temperature and pressure has the same number of molecules. So here we did the similar process just like the analysis of mass, that here the volume is divided by 2, and finally we are getting that 0.5 meter cube of oxygen is required for burning of 1 meter cube of hydrogen. So here 21% is there, but 21% of oxygen is present in the air. So we are getting 2.38 meter cube of air, and finally we can write down this equation. And then we did the combustion of carbon to carbon dioxide with analysis by mass and analysis by volume in similar way. Then we did the incomplete combustion of carbon to carbon monoxide, analysis by mass as well as analysis by volume. And now our next topic is, that is our today's topic is combustion of carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. So let's begin this. So let's begin our fourth topic, that is combustion of carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. So we will quickly go through this because we have done enough with our previous examples. So now the chemical equation is 2CO plus O2 is equal to 2CO2. So this will be our analysis by mass. So let us write down the molecular weight here, that is 56 plus 32 is equal to 88. So dividing everything by 56 will provide us 1 plus 4 by 7 is equal to 11 by 7. So here we can directly write down that 1 kg of CO plus 4 by 7 kg of O2 equal to 11 by 7 kg of CO2. That is, here 1 kg of CO plus the value of air will be 2.46 kg of air, and that can be validated easily with when you divide 4 by 7 with 0.232. So here 4 by 7 by 0.232 will give us exactly 2.46, and here the value of nitrogen out of this will be 2.46 minus 4 by 7, that is equal to, here we will be getting this to be 1.89. So this will be the nitrogen part. So is equal to, let us write down 1.57 kg of CO2 plus 1.89 kg of N2. Now second will be analysis by volume. So let's begin this part. So here we will have again 2CO plus O2 is equal to 2CO2. So we can write down here 2 plus 1 equal to 2. Next is 1 plus 0.5 equal to 1. So here 1 meter cube CO plus 0.5 meter cube of O2 is equal to 1 meter cube of CO2. So finally here also we can do 0.5 divided by 0.21. So here we can let me write down here direct 1 meter cube CO plus 2 point 2.38 meter cube air is equal to 1 meter cube CO2. So here we are getting this as 2.38, and obviously once we remove 0.5 here we will be getting plus 1.88 meter cube of N2. So this is the answer we are getting. So this is our fourth point. Now fifth will be combustion of sulfur. So again we will be doing it for mass as well as volume analysis. So let's begin. First we will be doing it for mass. So here we are having S plus O2 is equal to SO2, and here the values are like 32. The atomic mass values, sorry, molecular mass values will be 32, and here it will be 64. So 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So 1 kg of sulfur plus 1 kg O2 is equal to 2 kg SO2. So nothing to divide here. So finally what we will be getting here, 1 kg sulfur plus, here the answer will be 4.3 kg air, which is equal to 2 kg SO2 plus 3.3 kg of N2. So this is the analysis by mass, and the next is analysis by volume. So here I will be directly writing down the equation, that is S plus 4.76 meter cube air is equal to 2 meter cube SO2 plus 3.76 meter cube of N2. So this is the answer for volume. You can check it by yourself. Our sixth will be combustion of methane. So let's begin this. First will be again for mass. So the equation will be CH4 plus 2O2 is equal to CO2 plus 2H2O. So here the final will be, here it will be like 12 plus 4, here it will be 2 into 2 multiplied by 16 is equal to 12 plus 32 plus 2 into 2 plus 16. So here we will be getting 16 plus 64 is equal to 44 plus 36. So when we divide by 16, we will get 1 plus 4 is equal to 11 by 4 plus 9 by 4. So here if we see 1 kg CH4 plus 4 kg O2 is equal to 11 by 4 kg of CO2 plus 9 by 4 kg of H2O. So here the next will be dividing 4 by 0.232. So final answer that we will be achieving after this is 1 kg of CH4 plus 17.24. You can check it by yourself. 17.24 kg of air is equal to 11 by 4 kg of CO2 plus 2.25. Okay, we can also keep it as it is, that is 9 by 4 kg H2O plus 13.24 kg of N2. Now we will do it by volume. So here CH4 plus 2O2 is equal to CO2 plus 2H2O. So here 1 plus 2 is equal to 1 plus 2. So 1 meter cube CH4 plus 2 meter cube O2 is equal to 1 meter cube CO2 plus 2 meter cube H2O. So finally what we will be getting in terms of air and nitrogen, 1 meter cube CH4 plus 9.52 meter cube O2 is equal to 1 meter cube CO2 plus 2 meter cube H2O plus 7.52 meter cube N2. 2. So this is the final analysis for methane also. So we can copy this. Now our next theory will also be done on our virtual board. That is alternative method for minimum air required per kg of solid or liquid fuel for complete combustion. Okay, so this will be our new theory, which is having a small derivation. So let's begin the derivation part. Here what we will be doing, that we will be taking a sample of fuel. 1 kg sample of fuel is taken, out of which let us say that we are getting C kg of carbon, then we have H2 kg of hydrogen, is there, then we have O2 kg of oxygen, and S kg of sulfur. Okay, so this is the analysis that we will be doing for 1 kg sample of fuel. So now let's start with the chemical reactions. Let's say C plus O2 is equal to CO2. That is again 12 plus 32 is equal to 44, and 1 plus 32 by 11 is equal to 12 is equal to 11 by 3. So here if you see carefully, 1 kg of carbon requires 11 let me modify this. Here we can also write down 8 by 3. Requires 8 by 3 kg of O2. So obviously when we put C instead of 1, if C kg is there, which is unknown value, then we require 8C by 3 kg of CO of O2. So let's begin our next analysis. That is, we have hydrogen, so 2H2 plus O2 is equal to 2H2O. So here we will have 4 plus 32 is equal to 36. So 1 plus 8 is equal to 9. So similar kind of analysis is there, that 1 kg of H2 requires 8 kg of O2. So suppose we have H2 kg of H2 kg of H2 will require 8 H2 kg of O2. So next will be for sulfur. For sulfur we have S plus O2 is equal to SO2, that is 32 plus 32 is equal to 64. So here 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So 1 kg of sulfur requires 1 kg of O2. Similarly, S kg of sulfur requires S kg of O2. So here the important parts will be this 8C by 3, then the value S and the value 8H2. So this is the value of O2 which will be required. So now for that, the amount of oxygen required for complete combustion of of 1 kg of fuel is equal to 8 by 3C plus 8H2 plus S minus O2. Why minus O2? Because 1 kg of oxygen is already O2 quantity of oxygen is already present. So here we can take 8 by 3 as it is, 8 by 3 C plus 8 into the bracket H2 minus O2 by 8 plus S, and this is the value of oxygen. So similarly we can calculate the amount of air. So minimum air per kg of fuel is given by, equation will remain same, only a factor will be added, that is 100 by 23 that we were doing in volume analysis, that is 8 by 3C plus 8 into H2 minus O2 by 8 plus S. So this will be our final answer of minimum air required per kg of fuel. Or this can also be written as air to fuel ratio, that is our next theory. So now let's copy this first. In one new slide. So our next theory is excess air and air fuel ratio. So previously we were only calculating the theoretical or minimum air required for complete combustion. In actual practice, the combustion of fuel is never complete if only theoretical air is supplied. Why? Because there will be always be incomplete mixing of air and fuel. That is, the theoretical value or minimum air requirement is not sufficient for complete combustion. So to ensure the complete combustion of fuel is done, usually actual air is more than the theoretical air required for complete combustion. So we need to provide some excess air. So the difference between actual air supplied and the minimum air, that is stoichiometric air required for complete combustion, is known as excess air. So excess air is equal to actual air which is greater than the stoichiometric air. Now we will discuss about air fuel ratio. It is defined as the ratio of mass of air to the mass of fuel, and the reciprocal of the above definition is known as fuel air ratio. So mathematically it is like this, that air fuel ratio is equal to mass of air to mass of fuel, that is Ma upon Mf, and fuel air ratio is complete reciprocal of that. So the difference is this, that is the air fuel ratio. When we take the ratio of stoichiometric air to fuel, it is mass of stoichiometric air to mass of fuel. That is also quite straightforward. And percentage of excess air is given by this formula, that is percentage of excess air is equal to the percentage of excess air is equal to air fuel ratio minus stoichiometric air fuel ratio divided by stoichiometric air fuel ratio. Now the next portion is mixer strength or equivalence ratio. It is defined as stoichiometric air fuel ratio to actual air fuel ratio. Mathematically it is written over there. So when this equivalence ratio is less than 100%, that is when actual air fuel ratio is less than the stoichiometric air fuel ratio, then it is known as the weaker mixture. And if the equivalence ratio is more than the 100% or air fuel ratio actual air fuel ratio is less than the stoichiometric air fuel ratio, then the mixture is said to be rich mixture. So our next theory is determination of calorific value. So what is the exact meaning here about weak mixture? That here equivalence ratio is less than 100%. So actual air here is more than the stoichiometric air. So the quantity of air in the mixture is more. That's why it is called as weak mixture. And if the equivalence ratio is more than 100%, that is the actual air fuel ratio is less than the stoichiometric air fuel ratio, that is the quantity of air is less in the mixture. That's why it is called as rich mixture, because it has more quantity of fuel in comparison with air. So here next is determination of calorific value. So first we need to understand the meaning of calorific value. So the amount of heat liberated by burning of unit quantity of fuel is known as calorific value. So when we burn, let us say 1 kg of fuel, then the quantity of heat which is released is known as its calorific value. The unit quantity for solid and liquid will be taken as 1 kg, and for gaseous fuels it is taken as 1 meter cube at STP, that is standard temperature and pressure. The unit of calorific value will be kilojoule per kg for solids and liquids, and it will be kilojoule per meter cube for the gaseous fuels. Now most of the fuels contain hydrogen. Now this is important part. Most of the fuel contains hydrogen, and hydrogen combines with the oxygen during the combustion to form water vapor. So every time hydrogen which is present in the fuel will combine with O2, that is oxygen, and it will form water vapor, that is 2H2O. So here now in general it is not convenient to cool the exhaust products sufficiently, and hence H2O leaves as a steam. So while combustion, this H2O always leaves as a steam out of the process. So it has thus left without giving up its enthalpy of evaporation. So if this is leaving as a steam, then we cannot utilize this enthalpy of steam, and it is not available for useful purpose. On account of this, two types of calorific values are defined. First is high or gross calorific values, in which it is the energy liberated by burning of unit quantity of fuel when the products of combustion are condensed to their original fuel temperature, which is not practically we are doing, because the products of combustion are going into the environment at higher temperature. Here what we are saying, that product of combustion will be condensed to high fuel temperature. Now the HCV may be determined accurately by experimental method. Now second is the actual one, that is lower or net calorific value, LCV. Now here this is the net heat liberated by burning of unit quantity of fuel when the water vapor which is formed, as I showed you the previous equation, 2H2 plus O2 is equal to 2H2O, when the water vapor formed by combustion exits completely in the vapor phase. This S is not present here. It exits completely in the vapor phase. Thus LCV is the difference between HCV and heat absorbed by the hydrogen for the formation of steam. In actual practice, this heat is produced and available for the heating purpose. So steam can be used for heating purpose separately. The determination of calorific value of fuel is carried out in specially designed calorimeters. In the case of solid and some liquid fuels, the calorific value is usually determined with the help of bomb calorimeter. In that case of solid and some liquid, okay, this is repeated. So let me use this. In case of solid and some liquid, the calorific value is usually determined by bomb calorimeter, and in case of gaseous and some liquid fuels, the calorific value is determined by Junker's gas calorimeter. So first we will be discussing about bomb calorimeter. It is normally used to measure the high calorific value of solid and liquid fuels. Its name is derived from the fact that the fuel is burnt in an enclosed vessel known as bomb surrounded by water bath. This we will see in a figure. The fuel is burnt at the constant volume and under high pressure in the bomb. So now let's begin our bomb calorimeter theory. So you can view this figure. So let's focus on this figure. Here there is an oxygen valve, release valve, water is surrounded everywhere here in this component bomb. Here a fuse wire is provided, and here in crucible we will be putting here the fuel, and here this leads to a fuse wire through which we can supply the electricity. Here this is the base, and here thermometer is provided, lid is covering the top. So now let's begin the construction of this calorimeter. The bomb, that is this portion, the bomb is made from acid resisting stainless steel, machined from solid metal which is capable of withstanding high pressure, heat and corrosion. So this is about the bomb. Now the cover or head of the bomb carries the oxygen valve, that is this part, that is the top of this bomb carries this oxygen valve here. Over here this is the oxygen valve for admitting the oxygen, and release valve for exhaust to release the exhaust gases, that is here release valve is provided. So obviously oxygen is required for combustion of fuel, that's why oxygen is provided here, and release valve is for the exit of exhaust gases or flue gases. The oxygen is required for burning of fuel is supplied into the bomb through a non-return valve, that is this oxygen valve. Now let's focus on this crucible that is shown over here. The crucible is made of silicon or quartz, is carried on the support ring. Here on the support ring it is carried, and which can slide on the insulated pillars over here. The slot provided for both pillars through which the fuse wire can be connected to the leads of electrical circuit, that is over here, it is shown over here. Now the hole is provided to lead for the thermocouple over here. Here thermocouple is provided to measure the temperature of water. That is, the thermometer is used to measure the temperature of known quantity of water, and calorimeter very accurately during the experiment. Now let's see the procedure for this. The specimen of fuel in standard form is placed in the crucible over here at this location. The crucible and the calorimeter is also weighted before the experiment. So weight is necessary in this case to measure. Pure oxygen is admitted through an oxygen valve till the pressure inside the bomb rises to 30 atmosphere. So the figure is repeated over here. The bomb is then completely submerged in known quantity of water contained in the large copper vessel known as calorimeter. So we are discussing about the surrounding portion of the bomb, that is known as calorimeter, made from copper. This calorimeter is placed within a large insulated copper vessel, not shown in the figure, to reduce the loss by radiation. Now the stirring is continued throughout the experiment and the temperature readings are taken at every minute, that is through this thermometer. After 5 minutes, when the equilibrium sets in, the fuse wire is heated up, that is this wire is heated up through this electrical connection, and the fuel ignites and continues to burn till whole of it get burned. The temperature of water will rise quickly due to the heat energy released by combustion of fuel, and the temperature readings are noted at every regular interval of 1 minute. After reaching the maximum temperature, it is observed that the temperature again starts falling due to the heat transfer losses to the surrounding. And here the rate of cooling is determined, which helps in applying the correction factor in order to determine the actual rise in the temperature of water and calorimeter. After the experiment is over, the bomb is taken out from the bath and the release valve is opened to release the production of combustion, that is through here. So first here in crucible the fuel is arranged, oxygen valve is open, so here pressure is 30 bar. Then stirring is there. After 5 minutes, when equilibrium sets in, we heat this fuse wire so that the burning will start, and after it will reach the maximum temperature and then its temperature will fall, and then heat is rejected to this water, and then the bomb is taken out from the bath and the release valve is opened to release the product of gases. The bomb is dried and opened. So now the calculation: MF is the mass of fuel, HCV is the high calorific value, MC is the mass of calorimeter, MW is mass of water, CC is the specific heat of calorimeter, CW is the specific heat of water, delta T is actual rise of water and calorimeter. And here, see, these are all known units to you, so we will not discuss them. Heat given by fuel is equal to heat absorbed by the calorimeter and water. So it can be written in this way, that MF into HCV is equal to MCCC delta T, that is the heat absorbed by the calorimeter, plus MWCW delta T, that is heat absorbed by the water, and the temperature remains same. So here HCV finally can be obtained with this relationship, where MCCC is known as the water equivalent of the calorimeter. Okay, now our next theory is Junker's gas calorimeter, and its arrangement is in this way. Here, if you see carefully, the sample gas enters here. This is the pressure regulator, and here burner is there, so this gas will be burnt. So combustion happens over here. Flue gases are passing through this way, and here exhaust gases goes to atmosphere. Thermometer is provided here over here. Apart from that, surrounding is provided with this water, where thermometer is provided here. Cold water is coming from the left hand side and it is passing through this path here, and the hot water is going outside here. We are also taking the condensed steam from here, which may go with the flue gases. So now let's see the construction first. This calorimeter is used to determine the calorific value of the gaseous fuels. Its working principle is similar to the bomb calorimeter in respect that the heat generated by burning gas is taken away by the water. So water is common in both the gases, both the calorimeters. The only difference is the phase of the fuel, that here it is gas. Now it consists of a gas meter for measurement of volume flow rate of gaseous fuel, that is gas meter is provided over here. A gas pressure regulator, that is this pressure regulator, is provided here along with the pressure gauge. A suitable burner is provided which is inside the calorimeter to maintain the complete combustion. So we are discussing this portion of burner here. This is the third component. And a set of thermometers attached to the calorimeters. As you can see, we are having this thermometer 1 for measuring the inlet cooling water temperature. Here we are measuring the temperature of flue gases, and here we are measuring the temperature of hot water, that is exit temperature. Now procedure: a metered quantity, that is a specific quantity of gas whose calorific value is to be determined, is supplied to the gas burner via gas meter, which records its volume, and gas pressure regulator, which measures the pressure of the gas by means of pressure gauge. Now here, when the gas burns, a lot of hot products of combustion move upward in the chamber. That is, over here the arrows indicate that the gases will move upward. And then they move downward. That is, over here you can see both the sides. It moves downward, and then they finally escapes into the atmosphere through outlet, that is over here. So here the temperature of products of combustion is measured by thermometers placed at the exit passage of products of combustion. The exit temperature of products of combustion should be as close to room temperature as possible, so that the entire heat of combustion is absorbed by the water. So similar concept like a previous bomb calorimeter. The cold water enters the calorimeter near at the bottom and leaves near the top. So it enters at the bottom and it exits at the top. The water inlet and outlet temperatures are also measured with the help of thermometers, as I already shown you. That is, this will be our inlet temperature of water and this will be our outlet temperature of the water. Water which is formed by condensation of steam is collected in beaker and it is weighted. So these are the nomenclatures already known to you people, that Pg will be pressure of gas supplied, Vg will be volume of gas supplied, Tg will be temperature of gas, Mw will be mass of water circulated, T1 and T2 will be inlet and exit temperature of cooling water, Cv will be calorific value of gaseous fuel, Cw is the specific heat of water, and V is the volume of gas supplied at the STP. So here this will be application of our ideal gas equation. Pg Vg is upon Tg is equal to Pv upon T. So we can make V as a subject in this equation. Now again, from the energy balance, heat given up by fuel is equal to heat absorbed by the cooling water. So Cv into V is equal to MWCW T1 minus T2 here. I need to make a correction. Here it will be T2 and here also it will be T2. So with the help of ideal gas equation, we have obtained the value of volume of gas supplied at STP. That is, this is obtained. So through energy balance we are doing this, and finally the Cv value is MWCW T2 minus T1 by V. Now our next theory is enthalpy of formation. It is defined as the energy released or absorbed when a chemical compound is formed from its elements if the temperature and pressure of reactants and products are at the same reference states. So this condition is important here, that the temperature and pressure of the reactants and products are at the same reference states. So here the energy released or absorbed when the chemical compound is formed. So in other words, we will see this again. In other words, the enthalpy of compound at the standard state is known as enthalpy of formation, and it is denoted by HF0 bar. So let's take this example to understand that definition. Here we are having two reactants, carbon and oxygen, both are at 1 atmosphere and 25 degrees Celsius, and the exit product is carbon dioxide, which is also at 1 atmosphere and 25 degrees Celsius, and the energy which is liberated is this much of value. So let us consider the steady flow combustion of carbon and oxygen to form CO2, and let carbon and oxygen each enter the control volume at 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmosphere, and the heat transfer is such that the CO2 also lives at 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmosphere pressure. The measured value of heat transfer is this value, that is 393,522 kilojoule per kg mole of CO2 is found. That is also a negative of 3,93,522 kilojoule per kg mole of CO2. Now let us say that HR and HP refer to the total enthalpy of reactants and products respectively. Then applying first law to reaction gives us this value, that reactants were having HR value plus QCV, and it is equal to HP, that is enthalpy of products. For all reactants and products in the reaction, the above equation is rewritten in the form of rate. That is, it can also be written in the rate form, that is HR value is this, that is number of moles into enthalpy, QCV is as it is, and this is sigma Ne into He. Sigma is provided because there can be number of reactants and products. N represents N dot and H bar represents the molar flow rate and enthalpy per mole respectively. The suffix R and P represent the reactants and products respectively, and I and E denotes the inlet and exit respectively. On mass rate basis, we can also write down the same equation, where M and H represent the mass flow rate and specific enthalpy respectively. So the enthalpy of all elements at standard reference state, that is 250 25 degrees Celsius here, so here the enthalpy of all elements at standard reference state 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmosphere is assigned to 0 value. So HR is assigned to 0 value now. So when we go back and put the same value here, that is, if HR is equal to 0, if HR is put 0 in this equation, then we will get the value of QCV is equal to enthalpy of products. This is known as enthalpy of formation of CO. So now we are getting the enthalpy of formation of CO2 as this value, and negative sign is for heat transfer from the control volume. In real situations, the products and reactants are not at the standard state, so the specific enthalpy of compound at given state is found by adding the specific enthalpy difference delta H bar between the standard and given state. So enthalpy of formation in real life is given by this formula, that is H bar function of temperature and pressure is equal to HF0 bar plus delta H bar. Now adiabatic flame temperature, it is required to evaluate the highest possible temperature of reaction per product can attain. So sometimes we require to obtain the which is the highest or maximum possible temperature of reaction. That is, we require higher temperature in case of rocket propulsion, and at other end there may be some metallurgical limitations, so we also require to find out the lower temperature. So the maximum temperature of combustion products is only possible when the reaction is adiabatic, and under adiabatic condition the temperature which is attained in reaction is known as adiabatic film temperature. So whenever the process is adiabatic, the maximum temperature that is attained is adiabatic flame temperature under ideal conditions. So it is controlled by excess amount of air supplied, and it is maximum with stoichiometric mixture. In actual practice, the combustion temperature is always less than the adiabatic flame temperature because there are some heat losses, incomplete combustion and dissociation of products into other compounds. And it can be determined with trial and error method. The energy of reactants being known, a suitable temperature is chosen for products so that the energy of products at the temperature becomes equal to the energy of reactants. So this is the end of combustion chapter as well as end of our online lecture series on engineering thermodynamics. I hope it was fun learning this chapter, this subject with me, and it was very useful for your course. I wish you all the best for your future. Thank you for watching this video.